Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Well, I'm Matt Devries. I'm a local potter. I've got other interests other than pottery. I like to do a little woodworking, gardener, just kind of all over the spectrum, but I focus mostly on pottery. Well, what I want to show you today is wood steamer. I have strips of wood. I've got a few here, and I load them into the steamer here, and steams them for a while, and then I can bend them and make them into handles for teapots, baskets, anything. So this is homemade. Made it last winter. It's nothing pretty, but it's very effective. So I've got a piece of walnut, oak, and a couple pieces of hickory I'm going to put in there, and it's going to take about a half hour, and then we should be ready to bend them up over some forms. What happens is I have a gas can here that I bought brand new, never had any gas in it, and a fish cooker, and I just fill with water. I kind of customize it a little bit and have a hose so the water boils, steam runs up, connects up to the PVC, and runs through the big chunk of PVC, and then just have a vent hole in the back for ventilation so nothing bad happens. And just a handle on the end here so I can get in and out, and stainless steel bolts so the wood pieces don't sit on the bottom and get stained. It's really hot, so the longer they stay in there, the better, and then they'll bend up real well. Well, now since they're in there, it's going to be about a half hour, so I'm going to throw a few pieces of pottery and show you how I work. Kind of grew up in a family of artists, and my brother Nick was already into it, and my brother John. So I was kind of drawn to it. So I enrolled in pottery in high school in my senior year, and the teacher, Bob Johnson, taught me. He's a great guy, great teacher. And I just kind of fell in love instantly with it. So I've got this. What it's going to be is what I call a basket. And I'm going to put two lugs on and then attach, eventually, a wooden handle, bending. So I threw this yesterday, and I need to do a little bit of finish work on it. I think it kind of depends on the piece for what I get inspiration from. It's all over the spectrum, from looking online, people's websites, to magazines. I take pictures of stuff, whether it's the whole piece I like or just the way they did something on the lip of the piece or the way they trimmed it. And I keep that stuff close by, so when I'm in a rut, I can reference it really quick. I've always been interested in woodworking. I'm a very primitive woodworker, but I like to dabble, and these handles that I've kind of developed are just one way I can kind of combine the two mediums. But I've never seen the bent wood handles. Though I'm sure they're out there somewhere. I can't be the only one who does them. And I've just kind of started doing them. I'm still learning. This is my kind of sanctuary. I work a seasonal job, so in the winters I have lots of time when the kids grant me time. So I spend a lot of time down here, and become a hermit of sorts. And I just love it. I can sit down here for hours and just lose track of time and listen to some tunes and watch a Twins game while I'm down here or whatever. So I'm going to move on to this mug. I've been trying to throw more without having to do much trimming like I did on that piece, so I try to make the foot while I'm still throwing. So this I'm just going to clean up a little bit. I'm happy with how it looks. Mugs are probably a favorite thing to throw just because it seems like everyone uses them, and I use them the most. So that one's done. Just have to attach a handle. And I'll move on to this. This is going to be a jug. I like throwing jugs. People don't use them that often. They mostly just turn into vases, but I'm going to eventually put a little handle on it. I think anybody can throw pottery. I think it's just a matter of being patient and sticking with it. You know, there's always somebody out there better, but that's something to strive for. You want to get better. You want to get to that point. I think if you're starting, it's frustrating because it's easy to give up because you're not hooked on it yet. Yeah. These, I got to put some handles on each one actually, and then I got to dry them out. I usually try to dry them out really slow when I attach things, less likely to crack where the joint is, and then they'll get fired once, and then I'll glaze them, and then they'll get fired again with glaze, and then hopefully they make it through. And so now I'm going to go ahead and put a couple lugs on this piece. I think you can get really creative in how you put these on, but I don't want to get too crazy. For right now, I just pull a simple handle, bend it around like that, and just kind of smush it on. It's working for me now, so if I just kind of play with it a little bit here and there, maybe something really neat will come along. The hard part is getting them directly across from each other. Now I've got the lugs on, and that is where the handle is going to go. So after I bend them and they've dried, I kind of sand them and mill them a little bit, and then attach them by drilling a hole in the handle and then attach them with wire. I use copper wire, and sometimes I use some stuff to try to make it turn green. Otherwise, sometimes I just leave it. Depends how I'm feeling. So that's ready to dry. I try to go for kind of a rustic yet refined look. I like earthy stuff, but I also want to have clean lines, you know, nice, crisp, you know, negative space. So now I think those wood strips are ready. You can bend those. So I've got my gloves, because they're going to be hot. I've got about 30 seconds from the time I take them out of the steamer and bend them around the form. So just pop it in there, wedge it, bend slow, keeping pressure on it. There. Now it has to dry for at least a few days, or I can put it in the oven and put on the lowest temperature for 6 hours or something. I've worked with a few different types of wood. The one I like the most is walnut. It bends easy and it looks really awesome. But I've found that the hickory bends really well, whether it's green or completely dried out, where the other ones, the green, they bend better. And oak works really well. But the hickory and the oak aren't as attractive, in my opinion. So after they dry, I usually put them in the oven to speed the process up. Then when you know they're dry, they'll be loose. So I take them off, and then I kind of hold them over the piece to try to see where I want to cut them, and then I cut the excess off. Do a lot of sanding, and then make holes and kind of round the edges off. And then I use the copper wire to attach them. I think if you were to put kind of a broad range of my work. Next to lots of other potters, you know, same thing. I think the wooden handles, maybe some of the faceting or carving away at the handles of the mugs would kind of set me apart from everyone else. Yeah, I started doing this because I like to do it. The problem I ran into is I had all these pots and nothing to do with them. So, gotta sell them. And so that's fun. It's fun to go to the shows and get reactions on your work, whether people are buying or selling. Obviously, I want to sell stuff, but just to get positive feedback is great.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.